this man on the screen is? No? Well, he's Scotland's King James I. And King James I actually died by the sport of tennis. He was killed by tennis. And so King James I was a really big tennis fanatic. He would play every day on his court in his backyard. But he would become frustrated every time that he played because he would keep hitting the balls into a sewer that was located on the corner of his court. So as a king, what would he do? He decided to decree that the whole sewer was shut. And then a couple years later, some assassins came to his house, and in an attempt to escape, King James I went underneath his floorboards, tried to climb through a sewage drain, remembered that he had sealed it shut, ran himself into a dead end, was captured, and killed. So that's how the sport of tennis killed King James I. And I've been playing tennis for 10 years of my life now, so I found this story to be both comical and really interesting. Tennis is a sport that has been around since before the 13th century, and by telling you all about this sport, I want to give you a better understanding of why this sport is still popular today. First, I'm going to talk to you guys about how tennis is believed to go back to the times of ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans. Second, I want to talk to you guys about the two different styles of tennis that are played today, which are singles and doubles. And lastly, I'm going to talk to you guys about the different tennis lingo and tennis apparel that make this sport unique to that of any other sport. As college students, we need time to relax sometimes. We need to relieve our stress, and we need to be healthy both physically and mentally. Playing tennis is a great way to do all of these things. So before I get into all the rules, regulations, and the way that this sport is played, I want to talk to you guys about how this distinct sport was originated. So, although no one really knows exactly when tennis was originated, history makes us believe that it harks back thousands of years. Evidence suggests to us that the ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans all played a precursor to this sport, an antecedent, which it was basically the same thing as playing tennis, but instead of hitting the ball with a racket, individuals would hit a ball with their hand or a leather that they would wrap around their hand that kind of worked like a glove. And so Barzin in 2013 in his article of History of Tennis wrote, that Arabic word for the palm of hand is rahat, similar to the word racket, while the Egyptian town Tinis again bears a resemblance to tennis. And so this article later tells the reader that in the year 1000, French monks also began to play this precursor to tennis in their monastery walls. And another quote from that article written by Barzin also says, the word tennis was coined by these monks who would shout the word tenez, which was the French word for to take. So later, centuries went by, the sport became more popular throughout Europe. It later reached to England, where King Henry VII and the VIII fell in love with sport and made it so that tennis courts were built all across the country. The sport later reached the US in the 1800s, and as more and more the tennis became more popular, it also evolved. And so, individuals can play tennis in two different types of styles, singles and doubles. Both singles and doubles are, they both consist of points, games, sets, and ultimately a match. And so the way that this works out is that a player or a doubles team will win a certain amount of points, which will win them a game, and then they'll win a certain amount of games, which will win them a set, and then the player who wins the majority of the scheduled sets, which is usually best 2 out of 3, wins the match. And so the way a point is won is when either a player or a doubles team are rallying, which means they keep hitting the ball back and forth, and one forces the other to make an error, such as hitting the ball into the net, hitting the ball out of bounds, or when they simply cannot reach the ball and it bounces away from them. So that's how you win a point, and there goes that whole cycle of points, games, sets, and match. And so singles is it's pretty similar to doubles, but what makes it different is that there are only 2 competitors. As Hardin said in 2010 in the article Singles Tennis Rules, single tennis competition involves 2 competitors. And just like I said, so what'll happen is there'll be 2 competitors, one on this side, one on this side. They'll be behind the baseline at the start of the point, which is this whole back line right here. And there'll be 1 server per game. And so the server will stand here, and the receiver will stand here, and they will rotate throughout each point until the game is over. And so the responsibilities of the server are to call out the score before every single point so that everybody is aware of what is going on and there's no confusion or trickery. And responsibility is also to be honest about the sport and about the points. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. The only big thing about singles tennis is that these lines right here, they're called alleys. If the ball bounces in there, they're out of bounds, so whoever hits the ball in there loses the point. Doubles is basically the same thing as singles, like I said, but the only two real differences is that there's going to be two players on each side. There's going to be one in the baseline and one in front of the server's box, which is the net. And after every point, they will rotate. So let's say this guy's the first player is back here, and then at the net, then the net player will go back, and the player back here will go here. So that's pretty much it. And then another one of the big differences is that in doubles tennis, you can hit the ball in the alley, so you will not be charged out of bounds for that. And just like Williams said it best in 2015 in his article, How to Play Tennis Doubles, the real difference between singles and doubles is the way you approach the game in terms of strategy, tactics, and psychology. And so, in a defensive aspect, the person will not want to hit the ball at the person at the net because they have an advantage in terms of maneuvering the ball easily and hitting with power. And in an aggressive, competitive aspect, the person at the net will want to poach and try to hit every single ball. And so, two things that make tennis different from any other sport are the different tennis lingo and tennis apparel, like I said. The difference, first off, with tennis lingo, the way that the way that the points are called, instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 game, it's love, 15, 30, 40, and game. And Garvey said in 2011 in Giant Glossary of Tennis Terms, the scores 15, 30, and 40 are said to be from medieval French origins. When a ball is hit after it hits the ground, it is called a ground stroke. When a ball is hit in the middle of the air, it's called a volley. And when a ball is hit overhead, it's called a smash. So those are just very traditional point system that has been going on through a lot of time. Tennis apparel is pretty much anything that you're comfortable with. If a player wears a tuxedo to a tennis match, he's allowed to. He will not be asked to go home and change. And so, like a YouTube video said, comfort is key. So tennis is a sport that has been around since before the 13th century, and in talking to all of you guys today, I hope to give you a better understanding of why it is so popular. I talked to you guys about how the sport is believed to go back to the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans, how the sport is divided into singles and doubles, and how the sport is and how the tennis lingo and apparel make it unique to that of any other sport. Tennis is, if you want to partake in a physical exercise, is that it has historical value, exercises your body and your brain, and it's just a practice that has been in tradition for